Purnamada Purnamidang Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat. The subtle world beyond the reach of our sense is filled with Brahman. This visible world is also filled with Brahman. The entire creation has come out of Brahman. Even though this entire creation has come out of Brahman, Brahman still remains as full as ever. Om, peace, peace, peace. Good morning, everyone. So this morning, I'm here to talk on Karma Yoga and why it is the path to happiness in this life. I'm going to begin my talk by sharing a conversation from the Gospel of Ramakrishna. It's the beginning of chapter 30. And the chapter is entitled The Master in Various Moods. And it shows the different levels that the Master, meaning Sri Ramakrishna, operates on around the various devotees and very specific devotees, understanding what their background is and what he has to say. So in this particular short read that I'll begin with, the Master has a gathering of devotees in his room. And one old Brahmo devotee, his name is Manilal Malik. He's an old member of the Brahmo Samaj. So, and why we emphasize older means his life is coming to a close, and he's well aware of it. And he ends up asking the Master, what is our duty? He wants to know. So I'm going to take off from there. Earlier, before this question comes, the Master was telling this group of people, there were some Marwari devotees, there was many Brahma Samaj people there. And he was also saying, it's good to think that your religion is the right religion for you. But it's not good or helpful for anyone to think that the religion, the way you practice your religion, is not at all necessarily the correct religion for anyone other than you. And that idea has been mentioned because many of the people who belong to the Brahma Samaj, they are insistent that God has no form. He cannot have a form. God is a formless idea or being. They look on God as a being. They pray to God as a being who is all-powerful, omniscient. The Christian or the Abrahamic idea we have in those Abrahamic religions, that concept of God is a guiding father and a punishing father also. So this idea, the Master has pointed out to them, is very limiting. Who are we with our three-penny intellect to declare that God can be only this and nothing more than that. We puny human beings, with our little brains, our little minds, and our little lives, we want to say what the creator of everything that we're experiencing in our universe and everyone else is experiencing, we're trying to put limitations there. And the Master's pointing out that doesn't make sense to try to think that. It may not be in your experience that you don't see God, so you doubt his physical existence, that God is a physical being in some plane or another, even a subtle plane. But he's making it clear to them that this attitude of my religion alone is right and all others are wrong, that comes from the idea that my opinion, my understandings of everything about this world, this universe, all the other people in it, my family, my neighborhood, my friends, my opinion alone is the right one. Ramakrishna used to just use a short phrase saying, everyone thinks his watch alone is the correct time, is the correct opinion. And other times are wrong. Even if they're a minute off, a second off, nope, you don't have the right time, you don't have the right opinion. So in the very beginning, he nips in the bud the idea of being so attached to your own opinion, you are not open to learn anything new then, are you? You've made up your mind, you know you're right, and you will carry on your life, and you'll do your darndest to make sure everyone else acknowledges and also lets you know that you are right. Now you can see how in the real world that plays out. Nobody will agree on anything. All right, let me start this reading. I can see we're already adding too much extra. Also, I want to say, one of the things the Master said, triumph or defeat is in the hands of God. Triumph or defeat meaning whether we make our goals, win our battles, reach our goals, that as much as we may try, and I think everyone will have this experience, some things we try and are still trying for, we've not yet succeeded. But we are determined that we will keep trying, perhaps, and other areas we've given up. We've let it rest because as hard as we put our efforts, our mental energy, our physical energy to work towards some goal or other, it keeps failing as though we were cursed, as though it was destined not to become a part of our life. And we battle against it, swimming against the current, as it were. So he's saying triumph or defeat is in the hands of God. We cannot understand his ways. You must have noticed that the green coconut remains high in the tree and is exposed to the sun, but it's still its milk is cool. On the other hand, the panipal, it's a fruit of some kind, remains in the water, so it's in cool water. But when eaten, it heats the body. The idea that something being heated in the sun all day could be so cooling and refreshing, and many of you are familiar with green coconut water, fresh, right out of the sun, the vendors. It's refreshing and it cools you. And these other kinds of things can heat the body, even though in this case, he's just giving a metaphor. Manilal asks, what then is our duty? The Master's reply is, to remain somehow united with God. There are two ways, karma yoga and mano yoga, mental. Mano is mind. Householders practice yoga through karma, the performance of duty. Manilal asked, what is our duty? There are 4 stages of life. This is the old Vedic idea in India, how society was, you can say, formed. There are 4 stages of life: brahmacharya, garhastya, vanaprastha, and sannyas. Sannyasis must renounce those karmas which are performed with special ends in view. Means, I need this to happen. Sannyasis have given that idea up because, as a sannyasi, they are maybe expected to have known that victory or defeat lies in the hand of God, no matter what you attempt to do. How many buildings we see going up in a town and then everything stops and that building sits, a skyscraper. There's a skyscraper in LA that was going up like that. For the last 10 or 15 years, everything stopped. Probably hundreds of millions of dollars were invested by an investor. Everything stopped. Do you think they wanted it to stop? What happened? Nobody knows what's going to happen in the future. Anyway, so he's saying sannyasis should not be thinking ahead for the things they want to see come about, for their personal gain. So he speaks of that. But as far as the householder goes, he's saying, it doesn't matter what kind of action you are engaged in. You can be united with God through any action, provided that, performing it, you give up all desire for its result. I think I'm going to stop there because I know how my talks go. I got big print, don't worry. There's lots of pages. Good. Done. So renunciation of the world is only, this is Ramakrishna's all speaking, by the way. Renunciation of the world is only for those who God wants to be teachers of men. You may wonder, so God is the principal and he picks the student? Not exactly in that way, because some people will crave to be teachers of others, and others will run from that position. They do not think of themselves as either worthy or knowledgeable enough or whatever. And others, perhaps with very little applied knowledge, crave for that recognition to be a noted teacher of men, women, humanity. Go look on YouTube and see the pundits that are there who can pontify for hours on end. They're some of the longest podcasts. I watch a few of them. They go on for 2 or 3 hours. Used to be that YouTube would cut you off after 10 minutes, then they gave 20, then they gave 30. And now it looks like you can get hours of time because basically YouTube wants people glued just to that screen time. Meanwhile, your life is going by. So he goes, those living in the world should renounce mentally or inwardly, but they should not shun the duties of the householders or try to avoid work out of laziness, lethargy, fear of failure. If I try really hard and I fail, then I'm a failure. They self-label themselves already, and they don't actually take the first step, even maybe to try. So that's going the direction that I want to go to today. So that the path of work and duty, it is the path that will make us, most people are in, I'm a sannyasi, but for the generality, all of you are not. And sannyasis rarely watch other sannyasis talk, so even online, I'm not worried about it. The duty for householders are actually laid out very clearly in the Indian context. It's not that you get to do whatever you feel like doing or whatever you want to do and neglect the things you do want to neglect. That's a black mark on your monthly, weekly, daily review. So it's, first of all, important to remember that we have duties. Duties to what? Duties to your, well, let's start with your employment. Work is the big thing now, if you're still employed. Duties to your bosses, your company, who provide means for you to feed yourself, house yourself, clothe yourself, and if you're getting paid enough, to go and have recreation and fun on the outside. So you have a duty to do your job to your top ability. Your highest performance level is actually extracted out of you, from what I can understand, in tech companies and all. Because if you're found lacking, you'll probably be gone and someone else will be there and he will be under that pressure hub to perform. There's a long line waiting. By doing our duties, by working sincerely to do our very best at any action we perform, whether mundane, whether a big project at work, whether your relationships with your significant others, if you have a family or a spouse or just your friends, your duty as a householder is also to present the best version of yourself to everyone. Well, obviously, there are days we just don't feel like it, and we don't really care what others want from us or expect from us, and maybe we're just going to do nothing all day or do whatever we want. We don't want to talk to anybody. We want to shut off our phone and all that. Is that dereliction of duty? If we did it every day, it certainly would be. But because we know our livelihood depends on behaving up to certain standards in every field of life, be it your personal, if you ignore your friends or don't show that you're interested in them, interested in the things they're interested in, they're not going to remain much of a friend anymore. They're not going to be interested. They also will reciprocate in like manner. And this is part of the problem with all societies like that. And I'll just use the word, if we become more self-centered and self-concerned. Self-centered actually needs we use the word very easily, but the idea is we're mostly thinking about what we want, what we like, what we're going to do, because we like to do it, with the people we want to be with, the people who make us feel better about ourselves, perhaps. Do you have a duty to help other people feel better about themselves? That's a question I'm throwing in the middle of that. So by behaving every day according to your own set of self-imposed standards, and everyone has them, we hopefully become better versions of ourselves. We can improve. If we are reflective in our thoughts and honest with ourselves, we will see where our lacks are, and everyone has lacks. It's also helpful to acknowledge that there are no perfect people out there. There is your boss isn't perfect, your project manager isn't perfect. When you might not be able to tell them that, it might get you fired, but if you do, but when you know that to be the truth, that no one has mastered life, so to speak, no one has become, as it were, a perfect person on earth. Now, we have these iconic figures like Jesus or Buddha, so many Chinese masters and Indian masters, known and unknown, that seem to have attained a degree of perfection that for most of us seems, that bar is unthinkable even. It's so high. It's so perfect. But those are special beings. In Hinduism, we have answers for such beings. These called either divine incarnations. They're world teachers. Or Ramakrishna talks about the ever-free, those who are born from their very birth, they're drawn to the highest ideas that one can have about who and what we truly are. In Vedanta, I like the terminology, our true original nature. And the Hindu scriptures are so positive, the Upanishads, these Mahavakyas, thou art that. No other words can describe what that is. This, thou art that Brahman. That we are told that our essential nature, the underlying core of our entire sense of being, our I amness, it is the same divinity that all of these great religions appropriate to the divine being, the creator, or the gods and the goddesses. In Hinduism, the gods and the goddesses are midway. They're not there yet. And unfortunately, like the Greek gods, they're jealous, they fight, they do care about what other people think, other gods and goddesses think. They're concerned about the performance review because the idea of gods and goddesses in Hinduism is they're at work. They've got jobs. They've got phenomena that they're in charge of, and they have to keep it going. The sun has to keep rising. The earth has to keep spinning. All of these so-called natural physical phenomena, religions have attributed causes for those and controllers for those things to happen very smoothly. Cart before the horse, you can decide. Many people don't believe in any controller, any God. It is just nature manifesting itself. But we will then ask you the question, so what controls that manifestation? It happens just by itself? There has to be some impetus before that, for anything to happen. There has to be fire for light to come out. There has to be for stars to burn. Okay, I don't want to get too far off, but the idea that we are explicitly told, you are that, and you have always been that. And the obvious question is, well, why doesn't it feel that way? Why do I not feel all knowledgeable? I know I don't know everything. Or all powerful. Oh, I have limited physical energy. I have limited mental energy. How is that possible? Their short-sightedness is forgetting that when they say, I want this, I like this, I don't like this, what's the first word? I. The divine being, the Atman inside, has identified only with this body and concurrently with the mind that's been dwelling, that picked this body to live a life in. That's the limit, the self-limit of the identification. Somehow, we can't get through that wall, that border of some of us anyway, you'll see and you will know there are people who push the normal boundaries. They accomplish extraordinary things that seem impossible. They invent new things that seem otherworldly until they brought it into this world. And then it's, okay, it's just normal. Look at our phones, our communication. We can talk to anyone almost anywhere in the world now, even a rickshaw wala in Calcutta, if you have his number. How did such a thing become possible? Extraordinary people working alone, in groups, cooperating, collaborating to create newer, better, yet unimagined ways to bring us closer, you can say, to one another. It could be that there was a business objective for someone to make profit and money. Different motivators are there, but the bigger idea behind it is these extraordinary people are no different than any of us. Everyone has the potential to become extraordinary. So, what about us? The majority probably haven't, they may never have heard from their parents or from anyone else that they're special, that they're extraordinary. And those who are told all their life that they're very special or extraordinary, some of them, maybe they're deficient in certain areas and they don't feel, well, if I'm extraordinary, I don't have to exert effort. I don't have to try very hard. And then they find themselves failing and their parents saying, what's wrong with you? You know, we told you all the right stuff earlier, but every individual has to, within their own sense of being the doer, try as hard as they need to, as much as it takes, to conquer and learn, to gain knowledge, to gain skills, and to unfold their life in a satisfying way. Now, back to one of the basic premises. We all desire to be happy. We all desire to be fulfilled. There's no human on earth who thinks that we should be born to suffer, or that we think we ourselves should have to be miserable and suffer, and yet that comes to us unwanted. Does it just happen of its own accord, or do we have some influence on why that's happening? You've heard it before from many people up here. We tend to forget how happiness does come to us. It's not a thing you can grab and take and put inside. It is a sense of joy or gratitude, satisfaction, contentment that comes to us when we have actually exerted ourselves a lot. And now and then we win, as it were. I don't like using that word because it has other connotations, but we work hard, focusing, concentrating, we gain new knowledge, we hone our skills, and our certificate comes, so to speak, or the bigger paycheck comes, or the promotion comes. That's in the workplace. But the sense of, I can do things, I can make a difference, I can change the way the world is. Some people are not satisfied by doing big things that mostly self-promote themselves. Actually, nobody is satisfied from that. And I'm not sure how to bring it in. We try to bring happiness to ourselves. And that's where the failure guarantees to begin. Because as long as we remain self-seeking, our ego-centered behavior, happiness will not be ours. And until we can figure out why we are so discontented or restless, yet for something else, something more. As successful as you may be in your work, or even popular in the community, your work community, your play community, we never feel that we have become enough yet. Nobody. How rich they are doesn't seem to matter. So we find, for most of us, we are entangled in so many varieties of ways to this world and the beings in it that, and we can't free ourselves to rise above it, as it were. And yet, we aren't sure what to do about it, how to change how we think, our behaviors, how we act. And so what do we do then? So this is where that life crisis comes, which is asking a question, what do I want out of life? What do I want out of my life? No one else is going to live your life for you. Sometimes we might have to be reminded of that. It's completely on you to do something or to do very little. Nobody's going to necessarily coach you or cheerlead you, other than maybe people like us who will tell you, you do have near infinite potential. Swami Vivekananda reminds us there's nothing more powerful in the universe than the mind of man. No other creature, none of the other animals have been given, this big brain, this idea to be self-aware, this idea to think ahead, think behind, to, okay, that didn't work last time, I'm going to react, respond, do something differently the next time this comes up. We can improve ourselves. Animals, even the more loved animals like dogs or horses or things that interact with human society for a long time, elephants, if you're in Asia, they're very limited in their capacity to change their mode of being. But we have near infinite possibilities if we come to know that that's true. Whatever we bring to our mind and think about, we will have, if we have determination and perseverance, there is the power to manifest it eventually. Look at all the discoveries in science, molecular biology, chemistry, material sciences. What is known today, still, those who are in the leading edge of those things saying, oh, we know very little, we understand very little. Quantum physics comes in and shakes up everything. Oh, I grew up with the education, you've got the idea of atom, you got your atom and you got electrons spinning around it. We always see them spinning and now they're saying, well, they just appear. They're here, they're there, they're there, they're there. Are they there all the time? Quantum physics questions this idea of permanence by this, is it where reality could just be a flash appearance of moments and something about the way our brain is wired makes it seem consecutive. It's another way that the going on in our life in the world has been described to me earlier in my life. So when we become serious, we reflectively think, what do I really want? What is the most important thing? What is the most valuable thing to me? Then the subtitle drops down and it says, what are your values? What is your what's your core morality? What's your core value system? Does it benefit primarily or protect primarily just your small self, your ego sense of self? Or does it include others? And this is where the big game changer comes in. The discontent that comes from constantly trying to please ourselves alone, and if you're married or in a family and all that, all of the problems that come when maybe you're not giving enough consideration for the people who make up the quality of your life, 50% of the marriages dissolve quickly, often so much more quickly than they ever used to, because we fail to remember we're not meant to be alone, independent, or isolated on this earth, in this planet. No one survives alone. You don't survive your infancy without your mother and caretaking and feeding. You may have been a horrible crying baby. Maybe your mother will tell you about it later, or maybe you were sweet and wonderful. Babies cry for various reasons, but often what tends to calm them down when they feel loved and secured and comforted, when they feel safe? That lesson of life needs to be carried out into our respective societies, the company of our friends, our family. And this is where happiness starts trickling in. A sense of satisfaction, a sense of contentment when, let's say, your mutual love and respect for your friends, your partner, your family members. Maybe family members are always fighting, disagreeing about different things, but in the core, it's blood. We will stand by any one of our members if they get into trouble, and we will tell lies, we will fight for them. People come from families like that. I'm not sure that I did. I think when we were all children, I know that I think our mothers would fight for us and get in the way of a train or a bus or a bully. But later in life, sometimes we get we learn the wrong lessons, and we get, through trauma in life, I think, we have forgotten that there's a lot of sayings, like the safety in numbers in this case is safety in knowing that you're not alone in this world. Comfort in knowing that we're all here together and we're all sharing the same resources. And we do come forward and help others in times of dire disaster. Unfortunately, I caught the news yesterday and today, and this Texas flooding that happened. In 45 minutes, what was a little river no wider than this chapel went to become maybe half a mile across or a quarter of a mile across in 45 minutes of flash flood downpour. And then the information, oh, sorry to hear that. Who was there? Oh, there was a a Catholic girls, like Christian camp or whatever, 26 girls, nobody knows anything. Where are they? Others who thought, oh, we've got time to get out of there. They had no time to get out of there. This little stream kept flooding and flooding. 45 minutes is, by 45 minutes, the disaster had happened. In an instant, they know 51 lives are gone for sure. About the girls, they don't know anything yet. But this idea that when these kinds of disasters come, look what happened when the weather came through South Carolina, Georgia. The individuals who felt so, their guts were wrenching to do something good for others, you see. Literally, they came with their pickup trucks, they came with water bottles, they came with a Starlink so people could make calls and talk to their loved ones. This human response, you don't find that in animals, by the way, normally. If the rivers go up, they all hide on an island and they don't eat each other usually, when they normally might, when things are normal. Is it necessary for us to have a calamity or a disaster before we will choose a noble path that makes our life more than just about our own self, our own small ego? Studies have been done. I listened to an amazing podcast yesterday morning. I don't know if anyone else listens to Hidden Brain. And in that podcast, special guest was there. And the Hidden Brain is a podcast that covers human behavior, why people do the things that they do, and what are the results that it brings to them. So he shares a story of this university professor who life was real good. He was a University of Michigan research scientist, mostly doing research, and he studied healthcare, health benefits, what helps people to live longer, healthier, happier lives. And a few of the things they pointed out that came from many studies, so this is proven, is that it's not about having so much enough money or all these resources, but people who tend to have, what is the word? A purpose which is self-transcending. Their chosen purpose for life includes the people beyond them. It will include their family, of course, and people close to them. But in general, the awareness that, as we see in current times, everybody's life matters. And yet, we are so used to, how can I think about the mudslide took out all these people, or the tsunami took out these people, or the earthquake? I will just be depressed. Well, that's one way to take it all in and create your dark, cloudy storm and remain in your self-justified depression. But depression is actually one of the most self-centered kinds of behavior we can have, because we only care about how we feel, how we think. The world's gone to hell in a handbasket, and there's nothing I can do about it. But look at the other side of that formula. When the clouds go away and the sun comes out, and these angelic-like people are literally leaving their jobs, using their funds, and coming in where maybe FEMA or the government, we know that they're under a bureaucratic, creeping schedule that goes very fill out this paperwork and you can get this, fill out this paperwork and that. How do I fill that out? Well, someone there can help you. Well, I guess I don't have any coworkers to help you. Try and figure it out. If you fill it out correctly, you'll get funds, you'll get aid, you'll get it. But others are going, do you need water? Do you need food? Do you need blankets? Do you need a chair to sit on? Do you need to make a cell call? Thousands, literally thousands of people flooded in. I mean, that became so nicely publicized. And a lot of the helpers or workers, their attitude also wasn't really necessarily the best. They would start criticizing what FEMA was doing. Well, FEMA is set up to operate like a machine. When all the cogs and gears are running, it does work. And I was watching a podcast going into these areas. Others may be familiar with Peter Santanello's podcast. He goes to see the common people, particularly when something like that has happened. He went back a year later into North Carolina, Greenville, all these areas, and he shows both sides of the story where, no, FEMA saved my butt. I've got this house here rebuilt now, or I have a nice trailer. My house floated down the river, but I have a trailer that's livable. And I am so grateful just to be alive because my neighbors aren't. We don't even know what happened, you know. Look at the difference of perception from the same conditions of people being able to be grateful or feeling lucky just to be alive, because Mother Nature doesn't, it's not like Santa Claus making a good and bad list. Mother Nature just takes out the area, and it's always happened that way. And the response from individuals, that brings out the nobility that's in us. When news reporters go in and they're showing huge equipment down in the riverbed, they're recreating a whole flow, and we're finding out that it's just construction company owners who had thought that this thing was more important than their government contract or something else, and they sent their equipment down there to do that, and they've been there for a year and a half. They're making some progress. It's changing. The river's probably a little safer. Who knows what's in store for everything. I mean, we see that now feet of rain can fall in hours, and nothing that we try to build up may prevent it. But the people who are helping people who are receiving, they're both feeling connected. They're all feeling the supporter and the supported. And then those who, once they're back up standing on their feet, have opened up a food bank or an emergency. Just come and take what you need. So this idea that when your purpose is, it should be self-transcending. People who do not have that kind of self-transcending, self meaning our ego self, it's something that our purpose of life, how we will act, where we will get involved in, if it doesn't extend out, if it's mostly kept for my happiness and my needs, he's found, he's a health researcher, that the stress and the common illnesses that take people's life out earlier, some people survive cancer for years or survive diabetes or all that, when their attitudes are changed because they feel connected and supported to the human community at large, they don't tend to get sick. They don't have time for it. They don't tend to let the infirmities that they have bog them down. They continue to give. Doctors Without Borders, look at the people who literally put their lives, or Reporters Without Borders, putting themselves in and losing their lives in their purpose, which is bigger than them. I shouldn't have stayed up till 1:30 typing out all these other pages because we're running closely out of time. I'm going to do a quick scan and see a little bit. I want to go and share a little more of this podcast. This podcast is, I'm trying to remember the title, is that What is Your Life For? I believe was the title. What is your life for? And it's an hour-long podcast. I listened to it on my way here, and I had another dozen points that I wanted to, I've got to tell him that, I've got to tell him that. But the studies show that those who tend to shrink and confine within their smaller selves, they get sickly and they shrivel up and they go away, they disappear. But you have another side. This man, this doctor, professor, he had what was looking like a beautiful life. He had a daughter born, and then the second daughter, some years later, was born, and everything seemed to be okay until it wasn't. And one cardiologist was seeing them, who was a friend, and said, I think I want to run some tests on her. And he did an echocardiogram on the heart, and he found that her heart, he described it as though how we might tenderize meats and things by hammering them out until they're flattened out so they're more tender. That's how we tenderize flesh to eat it. He said her heart is something in a condition like that. She's not going to live. She's going to need a heart transplant. And, but then he noted something, and he told her, she's going to be gone in 3 months. That was it. But later on, she wasn't gone in 3 months. Her other organs weren't failing the way they should in such a heart. And this young person was a bright, shining star of a daughter, very loving and caring, had just the joy of the family. She was not, you'd think you'd be very concerned thinking that your timeline is short and everyone else is long, because they understood that, but they wanted to live the fullest life possible. And later, when she was a young teenage girl, she made it that far. And she was #1 in line for a heart transplant surgery in America, all of America. But they had taken a vacation to one of the Caribbean islands. The mother, the father, and the 2 daughters. And the 2 daughters had boyfriends, and they asked them to bring their boyfriends with them. We'll all stay together and just have a nice time out while we're waiting for the heart. And in the evening, they were sitting at a fire on a beach picnic table, and that their daughter just had to say, I feel so happy now. I could just die right now, and my life would be completely fulfilled. And that was heard by everyone. And she died that night. She had a massive heart attack. Her heart failed. So the shock then of all that, of losing someone, just like some of you know the book Viktor Frankl, maybe Man's Search for Meaning. This is like the new version of Man's Search for Meaning. He lost the love of his life, the joy, the bright, and yet, because of what he does, he was determined not to go. he knows all the statistics. He had just been listening to another speaker, because he's a speaker about healthcare. If someone in your life, if you lose a parent, it takes X number of days, loss of work, and X number of time to move forward. If you lose a spouse, same thing is there. But if you lose a child, the comeback for many is never. And he knew that. And he said, I am not going to be that person. My daughter would not want me to be that way. He ended up having a dream, seeing her. They were in a place, some kind of, he had actually literally he was in a silent retreat, kind of isolating in a cottage home on Lake Michigan. And there was a kayak there, and he had a dream that he saw his daughter, and she was in a place, there were marble columns, and if you listen to near-death experiences, sometimes you get these kind of descriptions from many different people. And the daughter was there and said, you know, they were together, they were talking, and everything was fine. But she said, Dad, I have to go now. And there were there were two other beings women in dresses that were identical. And then when we looked, she saw her daughter had such an identical dress. And she said, I have to go now. You'll be okay. You have to go on without me. I need to go now. And that, he woke up early in the morning, and he had previously, the day before, read a Rumi poem, which was about, if you wake up in the morning, don't go back to sleep. Catch the sunrise, something like that. So he woke up at 5:30 or so from that dream early in the morning. And he remembered the Rumi dream, saying, he wanted to go back to sleep because he thought if he went back to sleep, he would see his daughter again. But she told him, don't let me go now. I need to go. He decided to get up, just in his shorts and T-shirt. There was a kayak on the beach, and his kayak. And it was cool. It wasn't a warm, hot summer morning. It was cool in the morning, but he got into the kayak kind of in a trance and just started rowing out straight into the lake. The water was calm and glassy, and he said, it's so beautiful here. It's so stunningly peaceful and beautiful. And he was grieving so much. And as he rowed further and further, he estimated he rowed out 2 miles offshore, which is not a very good thing to do when you don't know what the weather's going to be. But as he got out there, he thought, I'll just keep going until I can't go anymore. Milwaukee's 175, it was like 75 miles, not 175, but it's like maybe, I think Lake Michigan from where I grew up is 80 miles across, 85 miles. He said, so he just thought he would keep going. And then something happened. He felt his daughter inside of himself. And she told, Dad, don't do this. Don't grieve for me. I'm fine that way. If you keep going, you'll never make it. But you can turn back. And she then faded away. And he decided to turn back. And from then on, instead of being, we can say, unconnected or distracted, he then did all of his work, he would be going to countries like Africa, working with other people. He felt like everyone. If he was teaching someone, he taught them like they were his own son or daughter. He took people under. He made a difference. And he thought, what should be my legacy when I leave here? Where people are, he built up a great organization, or it helps so many people. Something in an order like that, or will it be a funeral where everybody has already forgotten you, and 3 or 4 people and a few family members come and say their homilies, and then you're forgotten? Okay, so the choice is ours. Do you have a purpose that you can live and die for? The choice is yours. Thank you. I'll read a few announcements here, and then I'll conclude with a chant. So tonight is arati and meditation, and I believe Ramnam is tonight at 7 o'clock. So arati at 6, if you can come, and then Ramnam is at 7. Wednesday night, 7 p.m., there's a study group here with Swami Satyamananda will be back at 7 p.m. Thursday, basically online. I'll say online only here because it's very awkward if someone shows up at Tapovan when I'm trying to be a single podcaster. But I'm sorry, at Thursday is Guru Purnima. So for those of you, I know Swami has some new disciples and plenty of old ones, devotees are invited on Thursday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., note that, and 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., you can go over to Vivekananda House and just sit with Swami. Thursday night at 7 p.m., I'll be giving my normal Gospel of Holy Mother class. It's kind of a little interactive thing as much as we can, but reading. Friday, 7 p.m., Swami Satyamananda is on part 18 of self-knowledge, Atmabodha. This Saturday, we're back to the retreat already? Oh my gosh. It just seems like we finished. Okay, this coming Saturday is a meditation retreat, 1 p.m. at Tapovan. Anyone want to come and help a quick? It's pretty okay right now. I haven't made a big mess too much, but I always need to clean up. And the following Sunday, 9:50 is Mother's Children here. And then the Sunday talk at 10 a.m. will be, that's interesting. You're going to get more karma yoga. Karma yoga in the 21st century, how to serve when the world feels broken. It's a lecture by the son of one of our devotees, Kaushik Roy, who is living in the Bay Area, but he's, I guess, up here. So that's coming up. Let me conclude here with a chant. Bottom page here. Om, excuse me. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahano Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinavaditamastu, ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. May Brahman protect us both, the preceptor and the disciple. May he grant us knowledge equally. May both of us have the vigor to acquire knowledge together. And may this knowledge be complete knowledge. May love and harmony be with us all. May we not envy each other through misunderstanding. Om, peace, peace, peace.